My name's Neal Acree. I'm a composer. I primarily do video game work, but I've also done a lot of film and television. The games I'm best known for are World of Warcraft, Starcraft 2, Diablo 3, and I worked on shows like Stargate SG-1, Stargate Atlantis, and I've done about 30 feature films. I had started out in high school playing guitar, wanted to be in a rock band, and somehow I was recording like a lot of instrumental experimental stuff with keyboards and like dubbing effects on, tape to tape, and kind of found that I really liked recording instrumental music, and that just kept expanding, and I kept wanting to add different instruments and textures, and next thing you know, that led to wanting to work with orchestras. And really the only way to work with an orchestra, or one of the few ways, is scoring to picture for movies or TV, or eventually that led to games. And I've always just kind of gone with wherever the music takes me. I didn't set out to be a game composer, but that kind of, a door opened up and I walked through it, and it's led to some really incredible opportunities. Games and film, I'll tell you what's similar is that you're telling a story in both. Whether you're watching a movie or you're playing a game, you're experiencing a story. The difference is in games, the story has to adapt to the way you're playing it. You might veer off in a different direction and experience a whole different thing. The music has to be prepared to, on a technical level, prepared to accommodate that. And that usually involves being layered in different ways that the game engine can then use and adapt the music in real time to the experience you're having in the game. Whereas film, it's a linear story. You're telling, everything is lined up to specific cuts and a specific thing is happening. So in games, sometimes there's cinematics where there are short little movies that happen in between gameplay, sort of as a reward for the players. You get through a level, you get to experience this little movie that kind of tells some story. That's done in a traditional film scoring sense. But the rest of the game, often the music will kind of be a different experience every time. That's ideally, because if you're playing a game, some of the games I work on, people play for 40 hours a week. And for months or years at a time, the music has to be varied enough. The intervals it comes in and out, and the variations on it have to be enough that it doesn't drive you crazy every time you hear the same thing over and over again. My experience in games there's been a lot of cinematics I've done, and that would be a good way for me to inject my own personal experience in Tom's class. So I was going to show some of my World of Warcraft intro cinematics. Each one is like a 4-minute movie that they spend years on, and it's like the introduction to the whole game. And players, the first time they are seeing anything having to do with the game is this, it's almost like a trailer in a sense, but it's also the first, when they put the disc in and they start playing the game, it's the first little bit of the story that they get. And it's done in a traditional film scoring sense, with a spotting session and hitting all kinds of cuts, to picture, and then all of them are done with full orchestra and the really big productions. So there are different sides of the spectrum. On one end, there's these little movies that are done with full orchestra and choir and everything, and on the other end, you have these little looping little sound that might play in an iPhone app. So that's, game music has an incredible amount of variation in the ways it's delivered. And I want to talk about that end because I have more experience in that than anywhere else. People want to know how to get into game scoring. And the thing is, you gotta understand that Hollywood and the game scoring community, they're completely different. The directors are in, movie scoring are a whole different community than the people that make video games. So it's important to know the people making the games. Go to the events and go to Game Developers Conference that happens in San Francisco every March. And that's where all the game developers from around the world converge on San Francisco for a week. And you get to meet people that you wouldn't normally get to meet, and you meet them on a face-to-face level. And if you know the people that are working in the community you want to be in, become a part of it, then eventually they start knowing your name, knowing your face, and that can lead the way to relationships that will lead to work. Because ultimately, work comes from relationships. If you're gonna hire a plumber, you're gonna ask a friend if they can recommend anyone. You're not just gonna necessarily go in a phone book and just pick a random name. And I hate to compare music scoring to, to something like plumbing, but it really is somebody's investing a lot of money and time, and their project's really important. They want to get the best person for the job. They're going to go with somebody they know and they trust. Or, if you're lucky, maybe your reputation will precede you and they'll hire you based on that. But a lot of especially early on, you want to have a relationship with people that are in the power to have the power to get you work.